We need to talk about Unity. First of all, for anyone who isn't aware, Unity is an incredibly powerful engine that powers so much video game and just general software content. This VTuber model was made with Unity software. VR Chat runs on Unity. Escape from Tarkov, Outer Wilds, Hearthstone, Hollow Knight, Oxygen Not Included, Valheim, Beat Saber, Among Us, Cuphead. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Now, one thing you may have noticed about some of these Unity games is that a good chunk of them are just straight up free, such as VR Chat. But in a wildly unpopular move, Unity is launching a new pricing system for game developers that charges them per game installation. This new pricing model will charge them 20 cents per installation once they earn over $200,000 in revenue, which might not sound like a big deal, but that is a massive spike in cost for developing games on a Unity platform. And because of this new pricing plan, game developers are straight up pulling content. Cult of the Lamb posting, buy Cult of the Lamb now because we're deleting it on January 1st. And the reason is the new operating costs for new installations are just too much. They can't afford to keep supporting the game with these new fees, because these fees add up to thousands, sometimes millions of dollars for these game developers. This is a massive spike in cost to use Unity. The developers behind Cult of the Lamb, Massive Monster, commented that when people said it's time to pirate the game, the devs reminded them that that also counts as a Unity download. Gary Newman, the creator of Gary's Mod, questions these changes, saying Unity can just charge us a tax per install. They can do this unilaterally. They can charge us whatever they want. They can just add install tracking to our game. We have to trust their tracking. The developers of Crab Game, a free-to-play indie game built on the Unity platform, said that if his games were to be released with these plans, he would have owed Unity $5.6 million. Now, obviously, Unity tried to defend themselves and said that 90% of our customers will not be affected by this change. You know what the problem with that is, though? 90% of their customers are people who are using it for non-profit or recreational uses, such as myself, who created an avatar in Vroid Studio and then later edited it in Unity. Sure, I'm a customer of Unity. I haven't paid a dime. I'm not going to be affected by this, but that's really misleading because basically every indie studio that most gamers would even know about are in that 10%. They're trying to make it look like the impact of this is going to be way more minimal than it actually is because they're counting hobbyists and students that aren't releasing games within their total user base. Basically, every indie game studio has immediately set out to speak against this, such as Slay the Spire, who is now going to be migrating to a different platform because they can't afford to stay on it. Or how about Iron Oak Games, who make For the King, where they specifically say that if they had known about this tax before they started development, they would have changed their engine. Or how about the Hollow Knight sequel, Silksong? Well, guess what? Massive Monster has specifically said that this is going to cause significant delays because they're going to have to change their software, and that's going to require an entirely new skill set. Indie developers are completely abandoning Unity in mass. This is a cascade of bad will and abandonment. Nobody wins here. And if you're confused, baffled, amazed at the absolute greed on display here, let's take a look at their CEO. The Unity CEO was the EA CEO when FIFA 09 launched with loot boxes. Last year he said devs making games without monetization in their minds are fucking idiots. In an EA stockholder meeting, he entertained the idea of charging $1 to reload an ammo clip in Battlefield. This is the guy in charge. Imagine if this guy is allowed to get away with his greedy schemes. Imagine having to pay to reload your weapon in a shooter. This man does not care about what's best for gamers, not care about what's best for game companies. All he cares about is making as much money as physically possible at the expense of literally everyone else. And I know what you're thinking. This blatant greed, this pure avarice on display, all for what? To raise the value of their shares of stock so they can make more money for their shareholders? No! Unity's CEO sold company shares before this week's unpopular announcement. And you know why? Because after this announcement went public, their share price plummeted. Not even the shareholders are winning. Everyone is losing in this scenario except for the people at the very top looking at their gross profits. And this is really just a pattern of greed. As earlier this year, Unity laid off hundreds of employees, closed half of their offices. Now they're jacking up prices on people using their software. It is all just to funnel money, as much money as physically possible, all the way at the top. And I was doing a little bit of digging on this article here. Not only did the CEO sell shares, basically everyone up at the top was selling shares before this announcement. In the past 12 months, not a single member of upper management purchased additional shares. They knew that this was going to plummet the value of their shares, and they did it anyway. And they knew it was going to plummet the value of their shares because they knew it would be unpopular. They know what they're doing is wrong. They know that this hurts everybody. They don't care. Yesterday, an indie game developer posted on Reddit about this massive spike in the cost of doing business with Unity, and after the breakdown, somehow Unity came to the conclusion that Unity is owed 108% of their actual revenue. They're gonna owe over $1 million, which is more than they actually earn. And that's not taking into account salaries, taxes, and operational costs or marketing. And the reason they're not making as much money as Unity expects them to is because their studio is making mobile games for kids, so they don't bombard the children with display advertising. This one change is effectively going to crash a massive sector of independent video game development, and it's all the fault of one man. That's all I have to say about the situation. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Goodbye, guys.